Hey, good evening and good day to you. Welcome to Frictionless Enterprise, Course 1 for Path 1 for our Frictionless Enterprise courseware. I invented Frictionless Enterprise for us to take a journey of discovery together and to equip you with the tools you need to both learn how to be a compass and to actually become a compass for transformation in your individual business context, your team, or your entire enterprise. This course is going to take you through a series of pathways of discovery, as well as introduce you to concepts that are novel and new that I've taken from my 26 years as a strategy consultant, management consultant, and transformation strategist across the world. I invented Frictionless Enterprise so that we as transformers, as business leaders, as technologists, can take the reins of transformation in our context, within our current scope of authority, and make lasting, sustained change right where we are. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let's go ahead and get started. Learning Path 1 is just a part of 4 different learning pathways within Frictionless Enterprise for us to begin to become transformers across our organizations. I like to think about Frictionless Enterprise like a compass. A compass has a lodestone, that stone which actually always orients itself toward true north. What I will teach you within Frictionless Enterprise is to instinctively learn what that lodestone is in your organization and within your business context, and for you to instantly identify it and orient all your activities around it so that you are always headed in the right direction. Learning Path 1 is just one of 4 learning pathways. Course 1 is merely one of actually 30 separate courses within Pathway 1. And today's first cycle is on learning and unlearning. And the pathways that we're going to undertake include Pathway 1, which is for those folks who want to influence teams. Pathway 2, those who are people leaders and who need to influence, directly inspire people that they are accountable for and accountable to. Pathway 3, which is for engineers and architects. And Pathway 4, which is for those who are profit and loss leaders, executives, and members of boards across companies. I want to inspire you. I want to inspire you because leaders inspire their followers to act in sustained ways that transcend the moment that they're in. Just because you find yourself in an organization, perhaps in a business context, or perhaps in a scenario that's challenging, doesn't mean you need to allow it to encumber you, distract you from your overarching goal. Leadership, you're in the presence of real leadership when you're inspired to transcend the moments that feel like maybe barriers or even fetters or chains, and you actually can transcend them and make a sustained improvement and overcome them. And that is what real leadership looks like and what Frictionless Enterprise will equip you to become. So Learning Pathway 1 are for all of those who are joining the Frictionless Enterprise. Everyone starts here, and we have to learn how to be prepared to transform small teams. There are 40 hours of coursework. It is not just video series, and it's not just taking quizzes. There's also a part where we actually allow you to teach what you learn, because we find that if you are teaching what you learn, you retain 95% of what it is that you've taught. If you simply watch a webinar, watch a video series, and take quizzes, you will only retain 20 to 35% of what it is that you studied just 2 months later. And one of the driving forces of Frictionless Enterprise is sustained, continued growth. We want to equip you to be effective long after you take this course. And that is in the heart of every single member of Agile Immersive in our Frictionless Enterprise instruction team. We're going to learn our Frictionless Enterprise principles, practices, and patterns. And all our Frictionless Enterprise transformers start with Pathway 1 right here. Pathway 2 is going to take us through people leadership, people who have authority at the management and director level across Fortune 500, Forbes 2000, and mid-size and even small companies. These are people who are people leaders that and the people who must inspire people to overcome obstacles on a daily basis. There are certain ways that you reinforce the patterns and practices that we will teach you within Frictionless Enterprise to ensure that you are successful, not just in your own transformation journey, but also that you inspire those who you influence to also be effective. Pathway 3 are for those who have technical transformation authority and accountability. It will be co-taught by several members of our team that are technically proficient. The course is oriented for our chief technology officers, CIOs, vice presidents of engineering, enterprise architects, or other senior engineers that shape the technological landscape, ecosystem, stack of their respective organizations. It is 80 hours of coursework, and the prerequisites are to take Pathway 1, so that the additional learning that comes from the technical transformation execution will build on that foundation so that you are highly effective and your tech stack is actually oriented in a way to automate all the tools and techniques that you learn. Pathway 4 is 45 hours of coursework, and this is for our profit and loss leaders, those who have corporate board membership, those who are in the C-suite, at the CEO, COO, CFO, executive vice president level, those who are required and accountable to transform multiple lines of business, multinational corporations, and multinational companies, both privately and publicly held. As I said, all of our pathways start with Pathway 1. Pathway 1 is the prerequisite for all our other paths, 2, 3, and 4. The foundation of all of these learning seminars are going to be video, web video, enabled with quizzes that are built right into each module. Every module is 50 minutes long. Every quiz will be 12 questions. 80% must be obtained to pass as an average. The quizzes are, I'll be honest with you, they're tough. And you're gonna have to pay attention, take notes, both in digital, if you're okay with that. And if you wanna write it down by hand, you can also do that. The Frictionless Enterprise is based in Agile Immersive subscription system. So you can take and retake, watch the videos over and over again until you are successful in passing those quizzes. Pathway 2, 3, and 4, as I said, are built on the pathway number 1. And certifications are the FLE T for Pathway 1, FLE P for 2, FLE for Pathway 3, and FLE C for Pathway 4. As we go to Pathway 3 and 4, those are advanced pathways, which means there are higher levels of accountability for the individuals who take the course. as well as a higher level of expectation to pass those more involved quizzes and questions that they will be administered at the end of their webinars. Pathway 1 has a fascinating level of detail. It is built on cycles. And as I said at the beginning, the idea behind Frictionless Enterprise is to both compose and to understand the way of a compass, so that wherever you are in your organization, as an individual, as a team member, as a member of a larger cluster of teams or within an enterprise, you always know how to orient yourself with the compass, which is Frictionless Enterprise. So the FLE-T, the Frictionless Enterprise Transformer, or FLEET, the FLEET certification will enable you to handle the compass, construct the compass, and actually orient yourself and your small team to be transformers in the organization. The Pathway 1 curriculum includes the most powerful cycle, which is learning and unlearning. We're going to talk about how employees learn and unlearn, the most powerful conversation that you will ever have. We'll talk about who do you think you are from a perspective of leadership, emotional intelligence, environmental, sociological, and governance quotient, job skill. We'll actually do an assessment, which is an Agile Immersive proprietary assessment. We'll give you a score that actually gives you your rating based on leadership intelligence, leadership quotient, emotional intelligence, ESG quotient, as well as job skill. And then we'll talk about how each of those scores for different team members affect the other in patterns that we've noticed over the course of decades. And we draw on the scholarship of Dr. Alan Cameron and many, many others in the field who study leadership quotient, emotional intelligence, and other factors. And we rely on their science to back up what we've done. We're going to follow learning and unlearning with principles, practices, and patterns. There are frictions, wastes, and distractions, which we will teach our Pathway 1 students to target and aggressively remove so that the frictionless enterprise will indeed be frictionless. We'll also talk about how curiosity, elasticity, persistence, and understanding have their own principles, practices, and patterns. We will literally teach you how to build the artifacts, how to automate those artifacts, and how to have a digital habit of curiosity, of elasticity, of persistence, and understanding in your daily work life. We will then use those digital habits in building our DFFP cycles, which are our distill, flow, feedback, probe cycles. And that is where we actually build your work life in both kind of a paper dashboard and then a digital dashboard with its own metrics and artifacts, so that when you start on your Frictionless Enterprise journey, you will have everything you need to be successful in a sustained way. Then we finalize our curriculum with a use case practicum, where students are encouraged to actually work hand in hand with Agile Immersive employees and consultants to utilize everything that you've learned in your context, so that you are effective within your business context, within the measures that you've given yourself in terms of goals, objectives, and key results. And so that's what we're going to learn together in Pathway 1. So let's go ahead and get started on Course 1. Learn and unlearn. How do we learn and unlearn? Probably the most crucial cycle within Frictionless Enterprise is the learn-unlearn cycle. We need escape velocity to shift from who we have been to become who we are and to remain that way, to transform both your individual business output, your team's business output, and your wider organization's business output requires that you both learn new ideas and unlearn outdated ideas, outdated ways of thinking. The most powerful conversation that you will ever have is the conversation you have with yourself. If you hear something influential, something profound that shapes and shakes what you've thought of about yourself up to that moment, that's moving, that's gripping. The first time the person that you said that you love said, "I love you back," when they said, "I love you back," well, that was mind altering, right? That was emotionally and mentally shifting. It was a sustained impact in your life because the self-talk that happened after that external voice said, "I love you," your self-talk agreed with that statement. So the powerful conversation was what you said to yourself. The most powerful conversation you will ever have is your self-talk. You must learn new ideas, and you must literally shape the self-talk. After you hear these new ideas, you must shape the self-talk to unlearn all of the outdated ideas, which are potentially frictions, wastes, and distractions. It is confusing when we hear a series of 21st century thoughts about the information age, about how machine learning, deep learning, computers and machines are going to replace human beings with, ever more sophisticated, modes of cognition. How do we process that? It's confusing to think about the future as human beings being outdated, outmoded. I believe, and Frictionless Enterprise believes, that human beings are always going to be an essential part of commerce because human beings are always a part of the consumption chain as well as the value creation chain. And so we need to make shelf space in our minds for the new ideas of our digital future, of the digital habits that are associated with curiosity and elasticity, persistence, and understanding. And so what I'm asking you to do as students of Frictionless Enterprise in Pathway 1, course number 1, your first cycle you must memorize is learn, unlearn. The cycle is also the most important one that you will ever have. I'm asking you to learn Frictionless Enterprise. I'm asking you to unlearn outdated thinking. I am literally asking you to clear the shelf space of your mind. As new ideas come, push out the old ideas, the old ways of thinking. In other words, instead of thinking about value creation in large batches that must be captured in phase-gated ways, I'm asking you to think about iteratively breaking down big problems into small problems, creating a test first before you actually create actions to value create. I'm asking you to create the test first in small iterations to actually then act against those tests to get the value created and pushed into market. Push away outdated thinking. Anytime we have a new idea, and say that idea has something to do with what we do every day in our work context, what is it that comes to mind that we know, sure, I would love to iteratively develop small chunks of work that have a test first log and then associated key result, and then make sure that consumers give me feedback. And then I probe those results with, what are frictions, what are wastes, and to make them ever better. Sure, TJ, that sounds great. But there's a but in your mind. There's always a but. Whatever you would say in that space, but is what we need to attack first. We need to unlearn. We're going to learn. We're going to learn frictionless enterprise, and we're going to unlearn outdated thinking. There are some great books by some wonderful authors on learning and unlearning, specifically around the habits of thought, habits of appetite, habits of behaviors, both healthy and unhealthy behaviors. Charles Duhigg, James Clear, Wendy Wood, Jeremy Dean, all these are marvelous works. If I had to say read one, it would be Good Habits, Bad Habits by Wendy Wood. I'm just a big fan of Angela Duckworth and her work on grit. And Angela really loves Wendy Wood's work on Good Habits, Bad Habits. So of all these books, if you had to pick one, pick that one. And what Wendy Wood's conclusions are is we make a series of choices like by the millisecond every single day. We can choose to make the same choice, or we can choose to make a different choice. And it's all about the incentive structures that we have in our lives that allow us to do that. And even those incentives are also a choice. Do we let them influence us or not? And so I'm asking you to learn and ask yourself what is it in my business context and what I'm delivering to my internal customers, my external stakeholders, my internal stakeholders, external partners, customers, and consumers. What is it that I am committing to deliver to them? And how am I incentivized to do that? And is that incentive enough for me to keep doing what I'm doing and thinking I'm going to get a different result? As you know, Dr. Albert Einstein said that is the definition of insanity, to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We need to shift. We need to unlearn outdated thinking. So learn, unlearn is our first cycle. I want us to learn curiosity. Curiosity is our true north. Remember our compass analogy? A compass based on the electromagnetic field of the earth always orients, no matter where you put it, no matter if you throw it up in the air and let it fall, wherever it lands, as long as that lodestone is still within an aqueous liquid, there's going to be a true north. We need to learn how to orient toward true north. Because our organizations will always have flux, our organizations will always have shift, there's nothing that we can necessarily force within our frictionless enterprise. But what we can do is say, hey, listen, I'm a frictionless enterprise transformer. I know where true north is. Through chaos, through confusion, through distraction, through friction, through waste, I know where we're going. I know where our objectives are. I know where our key results are. I know how to test first. I know how to iterate. I know how to build practices. I know how to dashboard and measure. And I know how to communicate everything I just said in a methodical, automated way. I am learning and communicating true north. And while we're doing that, we're going to unlearn distraction. We're going to unlearn friction. We're going to unlearn waste. Now, the 20th century has known probably one of the most formidable authors on waste, Taiichi Ohno, in his 5 ways, Muda Muda Moody. I think most people are familiar with that. Just marvelous work. Frictionless Enterprise has updated Taiichi Ohno's conclusions on waste to actually be 21st century conclusions on friction. And we actually bring the 21st century reflection of those 5 ways into Frictionless Enterprises, what we call 21st century's frictions. There are 7 frictions, which we will unlearn, and we will learn how to probe in future coursework. But what I really want you to learn is curiosity and unlearn friction, distraction, and waste. And the first thing to unlearn is going to be distraction. There are so many temptations in our digital world that curiosity is wonderful because it opens our lens, it opens our mind to possibility. I want us to learn to be more emphatically curious and unlearn being distractedly unfocused. We're going to be curious about what it is that can drive innovation in our context for our consumers, for our customers, for our partners, for the key results which we have identified. We're going to unlearn distraction from those very same objectives. And so learn and unlearn, as you can see, work together. We're going to learn a principle and unlearn its negative antonym. Okay? So this concludes our first lesson, our first course. Our quiz will follow. Thank you.